Hello and welcome to Westside Wise Wednesdays, presented to you by Quest Communities and connected to you by AT&T, where we are giving you the news that you can use with the information that you cannot refuse. Let's get into it.
We are back, co-host Leonard Adams and
Ebony Ford.
Yes, we are still here with the one and only Byron Amos. Byron Amos, let's take a step back and talk about your political run and just your DNA of being in all these different spaces. I wanted to go back to APS. We know you served on the APS, and what was any of your legacy items that you left behind, or what were some of the tough challenges that are still, you would think, that are still going on today, particularly with COVID impacting the way that we went to school or engaged the schoolhouse?
You know, I have never been the one to shy away from my record of service. Okay. I accept the good and the bad.
Okay.
We closed a lot of schools on the west side.
Okay.
I was part of that voting apparatus that did that.
Okay.
So I have to own up to that. But at the same time, all of my votes are based off of, me and my God.
Amen.
Can I sleep comfortable at night?
Okay.
And then what will my mama say?
Gotta get mama in there.
Exactly. But definitely, that's one of the things that I definitely regret at that time. But that goes back to, as we was talking about, people not coming back home, people not, staying in the community, sending their children to the school in the community, and fighting for that community to be whole before we decide to send our children someplace else.
Yes.
Gotcha.
If there was a legacy thing, first thing come to mind is Hollis Innovation Academy.
Yes.
It was Kennedy Middle School when I was there. In that round of closing schools, I voted to close Kennedy Middle School.
Okay.
So to be on the board to reopen it, to reimagine it, I literally sat down and looked at the pros and cons of traditional education and of charter school education and attempted to pull the best out of both.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And that is what I was hoping that Hollis would be and continue to be. When you talk about the amount of philanthropic dollars that's going into the school, the freedom that the school have to build out the right curriculum for the children in it. When you talk about all the extracurricular activities, it's a pre-K through 8.
Yes.
That gives us not only a chance to get to know that child from pre-K to 8th grade, we actually get to know that child's family.
Yes.
When I was on the school board, and then of course Washington High, what we was able to do there, because at the time Washington was actually in the school board district.
Okay.
I always talk about the district being diapers to degrees, and
I like that.
I always think about Dr. Pearlie Dove, that was born in Washington Park, went to E.R. Carter, left E.R. Carter, went to Washington High, left Washington High, went to Spelman, then Clark. Never left the west side.
Wow.
West Side.
And got completely educated, like you said.
Completely educated from
All the way
diapers to
through.
degrees,
Yes.
all the way through.
Wow.
Yes.
So, if we look at the workforce in the city of Atlanta now, and we imagine a child, let's say born right here on Lowry, that will ultimately either go to KIPP or to Hollis, leave there at Hollis, through middle school, hit Washington, leave Washington, do an undergrad at the AUC, leave the AUC, and then go on to get their doctorates or whatever they want to leave. Then leave there, go and work for AT&T.
Yeah.
And
There
they
you
never
go.
left the west side.
Never left the west side.
They never left the west side. They're right here. So to our corporations that's listening now, you no longer have to relocate your workforce.
Yes.
Your education is already here because you're partnering with our schools to educate the children while they're there.
Yes.
So it works out for the entire city.
Yes.
It works out for the entire city.
Well, we have one.
I'm telling you, this man.
Hey, he hit all the points, right? Well, we
Yes,
got someone
absolutely.
with you, co-host. We got a young male that is actually in that pipeline.
Yes,
You want to say
a
anything
young
about
man.
your young?
Yes, my young man Jeremiah. He's in the 2nd grade at Hollis. Shout out. So Hollis, I didn't know that your granddaughter was in the 1st grade. So they're obviously really close, having that same experience coming up through. And Hollis, to me, and I could be biased, is very special. Like you said, the amount of philanthropic dollars that are coming through, the attention that's on it. It is unbelievable. He's in Boy Scouts. He's doing after school. They have a chess program. They have, of course, they help with homework. They have Georgia Tech. Horizons has an aftercare program. at Hollis. It's unbelievable.
Yes.
The Mercedes-Benz comes and gives them books, gives them reading lights. It was the cutest thing. I have a little picture. Jeremiah's laying in bed reading at night, and he has his little Mercedes-Benz like little reading lamp clamped on there. I'm like, where'd you get that from? They gave it to us at school.
Oh, that's so awesome.
You know, the Hawks coming through with the bus, and he was like, they came and put us on a basketball bus. I'm like, what do you mean? I had to call one of the teachers. Y'all took my baby somewhere. I ain't signed no permission slip.
Right.
So what it was is that they just put them on the bus, and they have their vision in there, and the dentists that come, and I haven't paid for a thing. Yeah. So it is they work with Chris 180 for their wraparound behavioral services. It is unbelievable. So yes, I can attest to
inclusive.
Yes, absolutely wraparound.
So I'm on the horizon with an
Yes.
18-month-old. He's not at Hollis yet, but I'm starting to think about those conversations.
Yeah, definitely. And so I want to get into some of your goals for District 3 as well, kind of pivoting just a little bit. You want to create park rangers. Is that correct? That's so interesting.
You know, it came from an idea actually from my chief of staff. We was talking and
shout out to
Chief of Terry. He's in the room live
Terry
audience.
II.
We're gonna have him get on his
II.
mic in a minute.
But you know, when you have issues that are not only in Cook Park, but Washington Park, Anderson Park, and all of the parks in the city, unfortunately. Yeah. And we have a police force that we have to own it. They're struggling.
Yes.
And struggling with the number of people, the number of officers that we have. Mm-hmm. When you ask for specialized details like park rangers or park details, then we in leadership have to find a specialized way to do that. Mm-hmm. So just understanding what the National Park Service is able to do downtown and in certain locations, and a lot of people don't know that the National Park Service actually has the King Adult Home on Sunset.
Absolutely.
So, we can talk to our national leadership,
yes.
see if they just stroll down through Cook Park every once in a while, but that's another story.
Not?
But we just asked for a study for the city to look at what does that look like if we do a unit called Park Rangers that only jobs is to be in our city parks during the most used times of the day.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's unique because we didn't want it to compete with APD because what we're finding, we're creative park ranger and all our APD officers will leave and go over there because they got better benefits so they're paying more.
Right.
So, it's those things that we had to look at. But yeah, that's why we did it, just to look at what we could do around our parks to make them safer for our citizens.
I absolutely agree. And then also another one, another initiative that you're behind that's awesome is you want to find ways to use funds to repair homes for seniors. Now, how does that go into keeping a legacy resident in their home?
Well, it's two things for me, and it's when I get on my bully bullpit because I can.
That's right.
We actually have investors
that
are calling code enforcement on our senior citizens.
Oh, my gosh.
And let me say that again. We actually have investors, and I'm not going to use the color of adjectives that I want to use, that are actually calling code enforcement on our senior citizens.
Strategy.
And by law, we as the city have to go out and investigate, and if there is a code enforcement, then we have to cite our senior citizens.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, understand a code citation can easily be our elderly person is 90 years old, no longer want to drive, and their car that they bought with their hard-earned money is sitting in their driveway.
Yes.
But because it's not registered and the tires don't have air in it, that's a code violation. Or if it's parked on grass, that's a code violation. So we literally have to cite them. I would like to see a day that when we cite them, we actually giving them a list saying this person will come and pull this car away.
At the same time.
At the same time.
Yes.
Or if, it happens all the time, a tree may fall. So now you got the tree on the house, of course, all kind of code violations at the same time, or even uncut grass.
Yes.
At the same time that we as the citizens of Atlanta, for those who have lived here, paid the dues here, paid their taxes, lived through all the stuff that has made Atlanta, we should be able to take care of our legacy residents a little bit better. And then the other piece of that, when you talk about legacy residents such as myself, it's clear. The banks are not lending to black and brown people in black and brown communities. Let's just put it out there. If any bank want to challenge me and actually start lending, let's do it.
Bring it on. Let's do it.
But at the same time, for those of us who own homes, legacy homes, came back home, decided to live there, that want to do some remodeling or some repairing, where do we turn to? Who do we go to?
That's right.
So Invest Atlanta, and the mayor and I have been talking about it. There should be a pot of money some type of small loan, not grants, because all of us is working, we have jobs, but it should be a small, low interest loan to where legacy residents can turn to. Even our senior citizens who are not senior citizens by law still want to do things in their home.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So yes, there are pots of money that I'm specifically looking for to take care of those specific things. But once again, it goes back into keeping our legacy residents in their homes and stabilizing the city of Atlanta.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. When that happens, you'll come back and talk with us about that once it's built out.
Oh, when it happens, I'm gonna stay down on the corner.
Okay.
You're gonna know them down,
You're gonna know 'em down there.
because I think if those two things happen, the city of Atlanta will go a long way into saying we love our residents, we respect our residents,
Got you.
and we're gonna stand in the gap for people who cannot fight for themselves.
Got you. Well, let's stay on residents, if I could, with
Yes.
residents and community. You talked about the park rangers. We're talking about homeowner rehab for senior citizens or funds that are available for that. And so let's stay on the part where there are some community ills or woes that probably each particularly urban city is dealing with in these small black communities, where you may have a host of people, hanging out, sitting on the corners, eating their food, drinking their beer, nothing to do for the day. When you brought up the park rangers, it took me back to a conversation that we had around the community also has to own
Yes.
its problems as well. And here at Quest, we had talked about potentially an ambassador program that was really not police officers, but enough authority to say, hey, you're loitering, or
Yes.
here's information. I know the mayor has these kiosks that are to be rolled out that really are information hubs, but I wonder if that physical touch of a person, how do we engage some of that activity that you see on Boone or on MLK that's just really just people hanging and sitting there for hours upon hours, but what they leave behind is what's making the neighborhood look bad. Any thoughts around? I saw you walking down the street about a month ago with your Walk With Me Wednesday. I just happened to notice Byron Amos walking with a host of police. Tell us what was going on that day.
Well, that day was our first Walk With Me Wednesday.
Okay.
That actually another thing came out the campaign. We elected officials to walk the neighborhood all day and all night long asking for your vote.
Okay.
Then once we get it, we want to tell you to come to a town hall.
That's what it was. Say
So-
more.
So Walk With Me Wednesday is a thing that we're going to continue to walk, but we're going to continue to, instead of asking for your vote, we're going to bring you information.
Okay.
So we have been struggling because a lot of things people won't own up to is no matter what we say we want to do when you get in office, once you get there, you're going to be faced with a whole host of things that was there before you got there, and you got to start dealing with those things.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're still trying to do consecutively Walk With Me Wednesdays to where we can do them like we want to on the time schedule. We haven't been able to pull those off, but they're coming.
They're coming.
But it gives us a chance and opportunity to get out there and do exactly what you're talking about doing, because no one is going to take our community for us but us.
Understood.
So we have to take it back, and a lot of times we have to take it back from us. I told you I'm gonna speak the truth now.
Come on now, say a little bit more
so
about
some-
that. You're almost with the
It's
FUBU.
right. It's
Yes.
it's sometimes everybody that's attempting to lose or take our community, some of them actually live in the community.
Yes.
And we are the only ones that can address that. So instantly when you was talking about that, my mind went back to the work that Chris 180 is doing over in Mechanicsville with the curb violence. And then we actually, with the mayor's office of violence reduction, just went up to Baltimore to see some programs in which there are organizations, and Chris 180 is one of them, that actually have what they call violence interrupters.
Wow.
And these are not law enforcement. These are people that comes from the community that are trained to be mediators. And their job is, if they hear something on the street, see something in the street, to get into the middle of it.
Okay.
Now, not to get in the middle of a conflict,
Yes.
but to try to stop stuff from happening before it gets to that point.
Absolutely, yes.
So you're absolutely right. The ambassadorship program, something to actually, some people may not know. You can't pull your truck in a city park.
That's right. Say that
Well,
again.
You
know
know,
that.
they may
Please
not
say it
know
again.
that. We're not going to talk about the sidewalk you drove
That
over.
you drove over. Forget that part.
Right. Some people may not know it. Some people may not know that once they get through barbecuing, they just can't dump their hot ash out in the park. But at the same time, we need to have more than one hot ash can in the park.
In the park.
So it goes both ways.
ways.
But you're true that, and then a lot of times, some people just need to be told. They
Yes.
don't need to be enforced. They don't need to be engaged on the enforcement level.
Okay.
Some people just need, hey, bro,
Yeah.
can you not pull into the park?
Got you.
Gosh, I get so tired of
Simple
seeing
as that, huh?
Just that simple.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely get so tired of seeing that. I got my question I kind of want to save to the last about the EPA, actually.
Yes,
You got
go
any
with
questions
it.
before?
I'm just fine.
all right.
Great conversation.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So one of the big things that's going on here on the West Side, specifically Vine City and English Avenue, a lot of you may or may not be aware of is it has been designated by the EPA, by the feds, as a Superfund site. So our lead is contaminated here on the West Side, and it's contaminated beyond the limits of what the EPA has set. And I think the Superfund just kind of gives us the EPA designation to allocate more funds to the project. That's my understanding. So we do have Emory and EPA actually confirmed for a little bit further down next month on the podcast. We'll get even more information. But Mr. Amos, you had an excellent article that I saw maybe at this point 2 or 3 weeks ago, where they interviewed you about growing up and having literally played with some lead because it may look like a pretty shiny black rock, right? Especially to a child. Tell us about that experience. Is it really that bad out here in these ATL West Side streets with this lead?
You know, it's ironic because once I was educated on the sledge, I think.
I know I didn't want to use the term. I'm not going to say it right.
Well, both of us be wrong.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. There you go.
You know, I instantly said, "Oh, I got scientific proof that I can do anything I want to do and blame it on the lead now."
Right.
But I'm not gonna do that.
I'm not going to do it.
I could-
49.
Right. You know, I could call for tenants' rights.
Yes.
I could call for reduction in taxes. You know, I can lower people. I can do all that and blame it on the sledge.
Right.
But you're right. Just growing up, and once I seen it, I was like, that we call those stink rocks.
Yes.
We used to rub them
Rub them
together.
together. It's a
You know?
smell comes.
Right. You know, not knowing that, bro, you killing yourself.
Stink rocks.
Right. But there are a lot of things that have come out of that.
Yes.
One, people identifying it. Two, people getting their area cleaned out. But I guess the most important part is actually something we was talking about, you brought up, in which was already taking place, and that's actually the testing of our children.
Not just the soil.
Right,
So the
just
EPA is
yeah.
testing the soil, but that's their limitations, and they brought on Emory to test the actual human beings.
Right.
So
Awesome.
there's more than one phase.
And because we can get into the soil, but if people know the history of Vine City English Avenue, we was always the industrial work area.
Of course.
You know, so not that it's right, but we anticipate to see some of that. But if, you know, testing our children, so the negative effect
Yes.
of that is no longer negatively affecting them.
Absolutely, yes.
And I'm glad, and I have to say this every time I talk about Chris 180, because they do most of all the work with our children. I'm glad they are an organization who do not believe in medication first.
Absolutely. Yeah. Love it.
You know, because we'll write a prescription in a minute.
Yes, in a minute.
In a minute.
But yeah, so that is an opportunity for us to really do something different around the environment. And just not only the pollutants that we have that are already there, the ones that we bring in. I would like to see trees planted up and down Northside Drive.
Yes.
State of Georgia go crazy when I say that, but I need to combat all of that traffic that comes up and down Northside Drive, and then for the next 3 or 4 months that our football team is playing, all that additional air pollutants. How are we counteracting that?
Yes.
Because now we don't have to have these future conversations around air pollutants that we're having around soil pollutants.
Absolutely. That is excellent. And like I said, I appreciate your standpoint on that. Get your children tested. A lot of people on the West Side, we're apprehensive and we're fearful of all the activity and all the money that we see coming in. But this one, I mean, even if you're afraid of losing your house, losing your place on the West Side, if that does happen to happen, I hope it doesn't, unfortunately, down the road, you still need your child to be tested while they're here. So I really don't think it's connected, I hope it's not connected.
I was skeptical. If you read the article, I was
I am too.
skeptical. But that I have not seen and or heard of a case anywhere, not only Vine City or English Avenue, but anywhere that people had to leave their homes because of the contamination in the soil.
I have not
you.
seen that.
You
Now,
know.
if we get an example like
Me
that,
either.
it's on.
Right.
Okay. It's over with.
Exactly.
We can't
But
tolerate that.
But at the same time, we have to understand just the relationship that
Yes.
black and brown people have had with medicine.
I understand. I definitely.
You start talking about medicine in the black and brown community, and we go back all the way back to Henrietta Lacks.
Yes.
We go all the way back to Tuskegee.
Yes, we do.
And now you're talking about testing my child. So if you're testing my child for lead poisoning, what does that do to my insurance rates?
It's true.
What does that do to my benefits?
True.
Because now you're saying my child is contaminated with lead.
Absolutely
Now,
is.
what program you trying? So it's a snowball effect that people just want to know answers to.
Absolutely. And hopefully we can give it to them. Like the EPA's
Right.
coming. Like I said, Emory's coming a little bit later in the podcast.
right.
So y'all stay tuned.
That's right. Well, today Byron
yes.
Amos gave us a lot of
Yes,
answers.
he did. A lot to
very
chew on.
good,
A lot to
robust
chew on.
conversations.
Didn't mean
and
to hold you so long,
we'll
Mr.
have to
Amos.
come on, get you to
That's
come
okay.
on back with some more. Hopefully you'll
Absolutely.
have us. And
definitely.
again, you're on the Westside Wise Wednesdays podcast,
Absolutely.
presented by Quest Communities and connected by AT&T. And we want you to know that we're always wanting to be a champion in this District 3 that you are leading. Particularly around vulnerable populations being housed. So please call on us when you need us.
Absolutely.
And
We'll be
we'll
here.
stay. We'll be right here.
We appreciate
Till
y'all.
next time, we are out.
Westside Wise. Mr. Amos, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Ebony Ford, host of Westside Wise. Access to affordable, reliable, high-speed internet is more important than ever. That's why AT&T is furthering its efforts to help bridge the digital divide by offering new solutions that help households here in Atlanta and beyond stay connected to work, education, healthcare, and more. AT&T has worked to reduce barriers to the cost of home internet service by combining access from AT&T, which provides low-cost internet service for eligible households, with the Federal Affordable Connectivity Program benefit. Eligible households can get free home internet service. I discovered access from AT&T at a time when I had no car, no job, no money, no internet. It was the segue for me to be able to apply for benefits, look for childcare programs, look for jobs, and attend training. It literally was my foundation to be able to get back on my feet. And it all started with access from AT&T. Terms and restrictions apply. Speeds up to 100 megabits per second where available. Learn more at att.com/internet/access.